Listen up. We're going on a family trip with your card. Don't expect me back for a while. This is just to let you know.
Panicking at Tom's words, I quickly check my wallet. As expected, my gold card is missing. I can't help but laugh. Wait, that card is expired. Are you sure you can use it? As I laugh out loud, Tom's voice turns puzzled.
What?
Ignoring whatever else Tom is mumbling, I hang up the phone. More than anything, I feel relieved at the thought of being alone for a while. I wonder what kind of trip they'll have and what kind of faces they'll make when they come back in a few days. The thought of a now panicking Tom only makes me laugh even more. No one could have predicted that this trip would be the catalyst for a drastic change in all our lives. My name is Maria Smith. I work full-time at a bank. I'm not particularly skilled, but I've worked diligently and seriously. Now, I hold the title of supervisor and manage subordinates. I've taken everything seriously: work, household chores, and raising children, balancing it all. The bank's retirement age is 55. I'm 51 now, so the end is finally in sight. My goal is to keep working until the end. Everyone I joined the company with has retired to get married, except for me. At that time, there was an unspoken expectation that once you got married, you would quit your job. After all, being a bank employee, a demanding job, was not something a mother could manage while raising children. Back then, I often didn't get home until after midnight. On top of that, I had early starts, making it difficult to balance with child-rearing. When my children got sick, I couldn't easily take care of them. Whenever I had to leave early, I bowed my head apologetically to colleagues and superiors who looked at me with annoyance. There were many difficult and unpleasant moments, but I couldn't afford to quit my job because of Tom. Tom and I met through a mutual friend. I was 22 at the time and had just started my job at the bank, exhausted from the unfamiliar work. Tom, who worked at a local factory, was kind and supportive. Unlike me, he worked hard with his hands, and I admired his work ethic. He always encouraged me and talked about how to handle things as an adult.
You have to respect your elders. They're your role models, including family. I value that deeply.
I took his words to heart and listened carefully to my seniors at work. Thanks to that, they began to like me, and I started to believe it was all thanks to Tom. We got married when I had just started to feel comfortable at work. Although I felt it was a waste to quit, it was customary to retire when you got married. While it wasn't mandatory, it was difficult for women to continue working back then. However, Tom had a different idea.
Huh? You're quitting the bank? That's a waste. In that case, I'll quit my job.
What?
Look, you earn more than me, right? What's the point in the higher earner quitting while the lower earner keeps working?
While Tom's logic made sense, his boss, seniors, and even his family opposed the idea of him becoming a stay-at-home husband. Back then, it was expected that wives would take care of the household once they got married.
Why should outsiders have a say in what we do?
Even though he said he valued elders, Tom refused to listen to any advice from his parents or seniors. He insisted on becoming a stay-at-home husband and quit his job as soon as the wedding was over. As a result, I couldn't quit my job. While I didn't hate my job, Tom's actions didn't sit well with me. And so, our married life began, with me harboring some dissatisfaction and uncertainty about our new situation. Things were fine until we had children. Tom would wait for me to return from work late at night, and I didn't have any concerns about starting a family. Soon after, we welcomed our eldest son, Mike, and then our daughter, Emma, born just a year apart. During my maternity and childcare leave, Tom did day jobs to make ends meet. After taking leave for both children, I eventually returned to work, resuming our arrangement where Tom stayed home, and I was the primary breadwinner. We had always worked together like this, and I naturally assumed we would continue to do so. But Tom began to neglect his responsibilities, complaining that raising kids is hard. Of course, I understood how difficult it was, especially since I had experienced it firsthand during my leave. I told him to just do what he could, but he started grumbling to me every day when I returned home exhausted.
You've got it easy, talking to people who speak English every day. Working outside would be easier than this.
That one remark made me furious. Who was the one who quit their job? We both agreed to have kids, yet he made it seem like it was all my selfish decision. Then why don't you go back to work?
Are you mocking me? Where would I find a job that pays more than a bank employee?
He complained about my suggestion while refusing to return to work. He had plenty of complaints, but no gratitude. I believe that a marriage should be built on mutual appreciation and respect. At least I always appreciated Tom's efforts at home when he took care of the kids and managed the household. But looking back, I don't think I ever felt Tom truly appreciated my hard work. As the kids grew older and entered kindergarten, I thought things would get easier. But kindergarten brought the usual illnesses, and since Tom was a stay-at-home dad, I assumed he would take care of them. However, I was wrong.
I got a call from the kindergarten. Emma has a fever. Can you pick her up?
I was stunned when I got the call while at work. Why can't you go?
Well, if I go, people will know I'm not working.
What?
So, I need you to pick her up.
I was so shocked that I couldn't even respond. Before I could say anything, Tom quickly hung up the phone. Being unemployed was nothing new. So, why the sudden concern about what people thought? I couldn't make sense of his actions, but I couldn't leave Emma with a fever either. Reluctantly, I asked my boss for permission to leave early. Though my boss wasn't happy about it, I had no choice. Out of breath, I arrived at the kindergarten. Sorry I'm late. The teacher greeted me with Emma in her arms.
No worries. Emma had a fever of over 38 degrees Celsius earlier, but it's come down a bit now. Please take care and let her rest.
Thank you so much for your help. I apologized once more, deeply bowing, and took Emma to the doctor. After returning home, Tom barely acknowledged me or Emma, who wasn't feeling well. Instead, he asked,
Should I pick up Mike?
Yes, please. I'll take care of Emma.
Good idea. I don't want Mike or me catching it. I'll take Mike out for dinner, so you can make Emma some porridge.
Without another word, Tom left the house. I couldn't believe his actions. After a long day at work, dealing with a sick child, and rushing to the hospital, I felt emotionally and physically drained. I was upset but had to focus on Emma. From that day on, Whenever the kids got sick, I was the one who had to take time off from work to care for them. Tom made excuses, saying he couldn't pick them up during the day because it would look bad. I used all my paid leave for these emergencies, leaving me with none for important events like school performances. Why couldn't Tom understand my situation? Frustration built up inside me, but I kept silent, fearing the kids would feel guilty if they thought it was their fault. Tom gradually stopped doing household chores altogether. Meals were store-bought, and though he claimed to be doing his best with childcare, I took on most of the responsibility. When the kids became teenagers, Tom started going out for dinner more often.
Mike eats a lot now. We can't keep up with feeding him at home.
Instead of cooking more food, Tom opted for convenience. However, Emma began cooking for us both once she entered high school.
Dad and Mike always eat out, but I don't want to gain weight from eating out all the time.
Though she gave that reason, I knew she was doing it to help me. Coming home to a freshly cooked meal after a long day of work was a blessing I hadn't experienced in years. Coming home to a freshly cooked meal after a long day of work was a blessing I hadn't experienced in years. I always appreciated Emma's thoughtfulness and enjoyed the meal she made. As time passed, both Mike and Emma grew up, graduated from university, and eventually got married. Mike's wife, Sophia, was a kind and beautiful woman. Mike adored her, and even Tom was very fond of her.
Sophia is so beautiful. She's nothing like you or Emma. Mike's lucky to have such a great wife. I'm so jealous.
Tom would say things like that, and both Emma and I found it incredibly annoying. Emma's husband, on the other hand, was also a wonderful person, but Tom never praised him. Instead, he would shower Sophia with compliments in a way that felt like he was being sarcastic towards us. Emma and I were both tired of his behavior. With Mike and Emma married and living their own lives, Tom and I returned to living as a couple. However, I was still working full-time, and Tom wasn't old enough to retire yet. Although the child-rearing days were over, Tom had grown so accustomed to not doing any housework that I had to continue managing everything. I found myself juggling full-time work, household chores, and taking care of Tom, all while feeling like the resentment I'd been suppressing for years was building up inside me. Then one day, while I was at work, I received a call from Tom. Since I couldn't use my phone during work hours, I only noticed the missed call after I finished for the day. I immediately called him back, thinking something urgent might have happened. "Hey, what's going on?" From the background noise on the other end of the call, I could hear a familiar airport chime and the bustle of travelers.
Ah, I'm glad you called back. We've arrived in Hawaii.
Hawaii? What are you talking about?
A family trip. I told you, we're going on a family trip. I borrowed your card, so don't worry about it.
Tom sounded so pleased with himself, but his explanation was vague and lacked detail, as usual. What do you mean? Explain everything clearly from the start. A family trip? My card? What is this about? Laughing, Tom explained smugly.
Are you stupid? Listen carefully. We're going on a family trip with your card. Mike and Sophia are here too. We won't be back for a while, so I'm just letting you know.
The sound of the airport chime finally made sense to me. They really were at the airport, about to head off to Hawaii. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're going on a trip without telling me? Even if you are, couldn't you have at least said something beforehand?
What difference would it make if I told you? Anyway, that's how it is. Just don't worry about it.
What? And you said you're using my card?
Yeah. I borrowed it from your wallet this morning. You won't need it since you'll be working, right?
At his words, I quickly checked my wallet. Sure enough, my gold card was missing. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. You mean my gold card? You really took that with you? Tom's voice suddenly turned cautious.
Yeah, is that a problem?
Do you have any other money or cards with you?
Of course not. Why would I? You're the breadwinner, so it makes sense for you to pay for the family trip. What's wrong with that?
Tom said this as if it was the most natural thing in the world, completely oblivious to my amusement. He assumed I was worried about him using the card. You're planning to use that gold card, right?
Obviously.
That card is expired. Are you sure it'll work? I laughed as I spoke, and Tom's voice grew frantic.
What?
Why didn't you check? You're such an idiot. Well, have fun. Don't forget to bring me back a souvenir.
Wait. Hold on.
Ignoring Tom's protests, I hung up the phone. It wasn't that I was upset about the trip itself, but why did he have to steal my card and do something so sneaky? As I gathered my things to head home, I found myself feeling unexpectedly lighthearted. So, I'm going to be alone for a while. For the first time in years, the thought of being alone at home filled me with a sense of freedom and excitement. That evening, I ordered pizza from a local restaurant and invited Emma and her husband over.
What's the occasion? Where's Dad?
Smiling, I told them about the phone call I had received earlier. Actually, Dad took my card and went on a trip with Mike and Sophia.
What? Without telling you? That's unbelievable.
Emma was furious, but she also seemed confused by my calm demeanor.
Mom, you should be angrier about this.
Emma tried to get me to react, but I couldn't help but feel amused, thinking about what kind of mess they would end up in during the trip. Seeing my expression, both Emma and her husband looked at me curiously, unsure of what to make of the situation. Later that evening, after we had finished our pizza, I received a call from Tom. "Oh, there's a call," I said, exchanging a knowing glance with Emma and her husband. As expected, Tom's voice was filled with panic on the other end.
Finally. You answered. Why didn't you tell me the card was expired? We're in a huge mess here.
It seemed like he had been trying to call me multiple times, but since I had been enjoying dinner, I hadn't noticed. Yeah, I figured.
Figured? Are you messing with me?
I could almost imagine Tom's face turning red with anger on the other end of the line. So, what are you going to do for money? Are you managing to eat? When I asked this, Tom hesitated, muttering something unintelligible. What? I can't hear you.
We've been using Sophia's card, but we can't rely on her for every meal, so we're planning to eat cup noodles for dinner every night.
It seemed that Sophia had brought her own card, and the thought of Tom and Mike having to rely on her made me chuckle. Well, please thank Sophia for me. I'm glad she had her card. Hawaii is expensive, after all. As I spoke, Emma and her husband, who were listening in, couldn't hold back their laughter either. Once I hung up, Emma looked puzzled.
What happened?
Oh, it's just that the gold card he took was expired. I had received a new one, but I hadn't bothered to switch them since I don't use it much.
Wait, so Dad took an expired card with him on the trip?
Emma's husband couldn't help but burst out laughing, and soon we were all laughing together. It had been so long since our home had been filled with such laughter. Sitting there with Emma and her husband, eating pizza and sharing this moment, I felt a deep sense of happiness.
Since Dad's going to be gone for a while, you'll be alone at night, right, Mom? Why don't we have dinner together?
Would that be all right?
Of course.
Grateful for their kindness, I happily accepted, and we spent the next few days enjoying each other's company. On Saturday, I received another call from Tom. He had finally returned from Hawaii. Although I was a bit sad that my peaceful days were coming to an end, Tom said that he and Mike would be coming over for dinner, so I started preparing a meal.
We're back. Get some food ready.
As I sighed and began cooking, I reminded myself that I needed to thank Sophia for taking care of them during the trip. When they arrived, Mike and Tom both looked far from happy. Their faces were dark, and even Sophia seemed a bit annoyed. Once inside the house, Mike immediately started complaining to me.
Leaving an expired card in your wallet like that is just irresponsible. Do you know what kind of trouble we went through because of it?
Before I could respond, Tom joined in.
I guess I've spoiled you too much. I can't believe you're so careless that you can't even manage your own cards.
Dad, you should get a divorce. There's no point in staying married to her.
Yeah. I might forgive her if she apologizes, though.
I was stunned by their selfish and arrogant words. For a moment, I thought to myself, are these two idiots? It was clear that arguing with them would be pointless, but before I could think of how to respond, someone else spoke up.
What are you talking about?
She addressed Mike and Tom with a firm voice.
What? You know how much trouble we went through. Mom needs to understand that.
I can't believe you. I never imagined you were this kind of person.
Sophia raised her voice, something none of us had ever seen before. Her words left everyone in shock, and all eyes turned to her. Sophia then turned to me and bowed deeply.
I'm so sorry, Mother.
Huh?
When I heard we were going on a family trip, I assumed you were coming too. I had no idea they had left you behind and even stolen your card. I feel so ashamed for being part of it.
Sophia?
I was completely taken aback by her words. Sophia had known nothing about the situation and had been caught in the middle of it. She must have felt so uncomfortable, stuck with both her husband and father-in-law on the trip. Sophia, please, raise your head. This isn't your fault. It became clear that Sophia's earlier displeasure had been directed not at me, but at Mike and Tom.
And there's one more thing I need to say.
What is it?
After seeing how Mike treats his own mother, I no longer want to stay married to him.
Mike turned pale at her words.
Sophia? What are you saying?
I want a divorce. I'm truly sorry.
Hearing her declaration, I couldn't help but agree with her. She was such a wonderful person, and I knew she would find happiness with someone who truly deserved her. Don't apologize, Sophia. This is your life. You deserve to be happy. Mike and Tom were both speechless. Mike, in particular, collapsed to his knees in disbelief, but I couldn't bring myself to feel any sympathy for him. Eventually, Sophia and Mike divorced. Mike blamed me and Tom for everything, and after moving back in with Tom, he quit his job and became a recluse. After the divorce, Mike returned to Tom's house and refused to work, isolating himself from the world. Meanwhile, I couldn't forget the words I had said to Sophia, "This is your life." It made me think about my own life. Was I truly happy living the way I was? The resentment I had built up over the years, the unresolved frustrations with Tom and Mike, none of it had changed, even after the trip. That's when I finally made the decision. I told Tom I wanted a divorce.
What are you talking about?
Tom was furious. His face turned red, as if I had said something absurd. This is exactly what I mean. Remember when Mike told you to get a divorce after the trip? You said you'd consider it if I apologized, but I realized that even if you did apologize, I wouldn't be able to forgive you.
I didn't even use your card in the end. What do I need to apologize for?
It's not just about the trip. You can't give me back the years of my life that I lost, but I won't let you or Mike take any more of my future. I'm done. I hadn't planned on saying those exact words, but as they came out, I realized they were the truth. Tom, consumed by anger, yelled at me.
Fine. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life with an old hag like you anyway. Divorce. Whatever. I don't care.
And just like that, we officially divorced. The house we lived in had been inherited from Tom's parents, so I moved in with Emma and her husband. However, about 3 months after the divorce, Tom came to see me.
I wasn't thinking clearly back then. I'm sorry. Please come back. Let's start over.
It seemed he finally realized what my absence meant in his life. With Mike living as a recluse, he was struggling to manage on his own. I'm not interested. I've finally found happiness, and I'm not giving it up. I firmly rejected Tom. Although he seemed frustrated by my response, both Emma and her husband stood by my side, supporting me. Then, about 6 months later, Emma's husband was transferred to a new location, and we all moved to a different city. Fortunately, I was able to transfer within the bank, so I could continue working. Tom wouldn't know our new address, and I had no intention of seeing him again. As for Tom, according to a mutual friend, he eventually started working at a local supermarket, stocking shelves. Since he had been a stay-at-home husband for so long, there weren't many jobs available to him. But even though he managed to start working, his behavior caused problems. Apparently, he kept visiting our old apartment in search of me, and the neighbors eventually called the police on him multiple times. His behavior even affected his job, as complaints from the community led to him losing his job at the supermarket. No one wants to be around someone like that, and it's no surprise that people stopped shopping at the supermarket where he worked. Still, I hope he manages to figure things out. He never appreciated the difficulty of maintaining a household or raising children, so maybe this experience will teach him something. Meanwhile, Emma and her husband have decided to settle down in our new location and buy a house. Emma's husband even took out a mortgage from my bank, and I couldn't be more grateful to them for continuing to live with me. To add to the joy, we're expecting a grandchild next year. I didn't get to show as much love to my own kids as I wanted to, so I'm going to shower this grandchild with affection, I joked. Emma responded with a serious expression.
Mom, you gave us plenty of love. You worked hard, raised us, and took care of everything. I want to be a mother just like you.
Her words brought tears to my eyes. I realized then that, despite all the hardships, I still had the most important thing of all, my family's love. From now on, no matter what challenges life throws at me, I'll face them with the support of my family, knowing that we all respect and care for one another. I hope you enjoyed my story. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.